We can move on to the next club, Keith, talk about Aston Villa. Now, talking of the spending cap, they actually voted against it. Why do you think they did that? And what were their main reasons for that decision?
Yeah, that's I must admit, raise my eyebrows on Villa. You suddenly think, well, hang on, they must have plans to spend a lot more money. Edens and Soris are great owners. They've definitely got deep pockets. I think they've got a taste of success now with Unai Emery. I think, the potentially Champions League. Villa is a great club. I was honoured to be chief executive there for a short time. But, why did they vote for it? Yeah, it must be because they're thinking, well, okay, we want the freedom to build. And Villa fans must be loving that thought. Certainly it gives them more headroom and, Villa could strengthen and they could go on. They've got all the infrastructure to be another huge club again. They could genuinely challenge and be right at the top again. And if they get the right squad for next season, there's no reason why they couldn't. So perhaps that's what the owners are thinking. I think also, as big owners like Wes Edens in the States, and this is something I was surprised about why Liverpool and Arsenal did not vote for it, was because when the NFL franchises put in their wage cap, the value of those franchises went through the roof because they had certainty on costs. So I expected all the American owners to have voted for this and give themselves some sort of certainty on costs. So I was surprised when that didn't happen. And in the days ahead, we're going to see, I think, a lot of debate, a lot of leaked media stories, and we're going to start to understand the thinking a bit more behind it. Because I did think this would have been popular amongst the American owners. But we'll have to see how this unfolds.
In terms, Keith, to kind of rewind a little bit, you mentioned in there spending big. Do you actually believe that with Emery at the helm, they actually could go on and challenge next season? How much of a reality will that be for them? And this decision voting against the spending cap, will Emery have been involved in that, do you think? Or would that simply have been taken from a senior exec point of view?
No, I think that will have been taken right at the top by the owners. I think with Emery and also with Monchi, let's not forget Monchi coming in as sporting director, I think was one of the great signings of all time. Huge talent and probably the best, I think, in the world at what he does. I've analysed a lot of his work at Seville and he's great. So I think with that sort of team in place, the owners felt comfortable they could go ahead and build some sort of dynasty. And, they're looking at the next 4 or 5 years without doubt, and they're looking to improve every year. So I think Villa have got it all just now to go forward. So good luck to them. We all know they're in a very competitive end of the table, but they've got a chance. And I think they feel that they've got the right management team in place, both on and off the pitch. They've got a chief executive or managing director, or I think he's head of commercial operations is his title, who's come in from the States. I think he's made a few missteps as he's gone forward, but he seems to be settling down a bit now. Look, let's hope Villa go on and do challenge. I mean, it makes everybody happier if there is. If only we could get FA Cup semi-finals back to Villa Park, that would make me happy as well. But I'm afraid those things are not going to be happening.
Keith, we've seen, links away from some of their big stars. Someone like Douglas Luiz has been linked with some clubs around both England and Europe. Do you think if they are to secure Champions League, which it looks very much like they are at this point, that their stars will stay? And at that point, as you've said, that they will now be buying into Emery's project, where actually it will be turning them into a global superpower?
Yeah, I think Emery is got to be the one that's going to be the man manager that can keep them there. I think Luiz in particular has bought into the whole project. I think he's certainly playing better. I think the whole squad's there. It can be strengthened. And with Monchi's skills as well, I'm sure they've already got a blueprint going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if Monchi's presented a blueprint for the next 4 or 5 years to the owners. And that's why they have voted for this freedom to spend more as well. There's no reason at all why that couldn't be the case. But I think Villa have got enough now to keep the Ollie Watkins, to keep the Louises, some of their star players, and possibly add more. So I think they've got a chance.
And you anticipate them to spend big then this summer? And do you have a potential figure you might give that they would spend potentially?
Not yet. I think we've got to see how the season ends up with its Champions League or not. I think that will put extra pressure on them to spend on a certain higher quality of player to keep the squad strong for Champions League. If it's just Europa League, and then they may not have the same pressure to spend. So let's just see where they end up right now before we put any sort of price tag on there. But as I say, with Champions League, I would expect some pretty serious spending, at least in 2 or 3 positions.
And Keith, from a different point of view, we're going to briefly talk about some buybacks in here, because it looks very much like Cameron Archer's likely return to Villa on a buyback from Sheffield United. What are your thoughts? And actually, is that now going to be a way for clubs going forwards to potentially make money back on players?
Well, yeah, it's a buyback because when Sheffield United got relegated, that meant that they had to buy him back. I suppose that was as much in Sheffield United's interests as it is Villa's. I would expect Archer probably not, although he'd come back to Villa, I expect him to be moved on during the window. I actually had Cameron Archer when I was at Villa, very talented young striker. He's got great potential. I think he'll do well with somebody, but I don't think he'll be quite the level that Villa are looking at right now for Champions League. So I think I'd expect him to come back to Villa and be moved on this summer. He'll do a great job for somebody, and he's definitely a young talent, but I don't think he'll fit into the Villa plans, in my opinion.
And in terms of buybacks generally, Keith, what do you make of them? And actually, is that going to be a way for clubs going forwards that do get promoted? And actually, is it an incentive for them to buy players? Where's your stance on that?
Well, the buybacks, I'd rather actually commit, for the players' point of view, to them staying with the club if possible. And I think also when you are part of a club that wins a promotion, there is certainly something special that happens amongst that team and the chemistry. And so, you do have some great bonds, battling together to get a promotion. So I think a lot of players would prefer to stay with the promoted club and go up. However, we all know how financially brutal football can be. And if a young talent is scoring all the goals that gets them promoted, he's going to be a target for other potential Premier League clubs. Certainly, if they're on loan, then it will be the owning club that will have that decision as to what they want to do. And hopefully, if they've improved that player's value by playing, by having him in the promoted club, then both clubs can share in success, and hopefully he can come at a reasonable price and stay there. So much depends on the personality of the young player themselves, what the agents believe, and also what other openings are there. A lot of young players might choose to go overseas at the moment and get that sort of experience as well. We're seeing a bit more of that.